Of all Queen Victoria's 9 children, none was more intriguing than her second daughter, Alice. The contradictions in her personality are so striking that while she has often been overshadowed by her more illustrious brother, King Edward VII, and her brilliant sister, the German Empress Frederick, she remains to this day an enigma, the depths of whose character are virtually impossible to penetrate. Renowned for her cheerfulness and sense of humour, she was none the less prone to melancholy and virtually driven to the point of despair by the tragedies in her public as well as her personal life. A dedicated philanthropist who devoted herself to the service of the poor, she was simultaneously attracted to beautiful jewellery and earned her mother's censure for her love of fine society. Unorthodox, yet profoundly spiritual, she, who wrote of her resignation to the will of God in the most heart-rending circumstances, was accused by the Prussian Queen of atheism, and was not ashamed to be associated with one of the most controversial theologians of the age. She loved her children deeply and was devoted to her husband, yet her marriage became increasingly unsatisfying, and, as she told the Queen, being a wife and mother did not come naturally to her. Unconventional and unafraid of involving herself in taboo causes, she was ever conscious of the privileges and responsibilities of her royal status, and while inspiring devotion in the people whom she selflessly served, she was criticized too by those closest to her for her outspokenness and inability to endure a lack of commitment in others. At the age of 18, during her mother's overwhelming grief at the death of Prince Albert, Alice put aside her own sorrow to assume all the duties of a monarch. But while the country applauded her diligence, the stress of her repressed grief would affect her to the end of her life. For Alice was, first and foremost, her father's daughter. He alone had, she believed, understood the most profound aspects of her character, and she created of him a model of perfection to which she would always aspire. The greatest tragedy of her life was not so much his demise as the fact that he had created so perfect and happy a childhood for her that nothing that came afterwards could ever quite live up to her high expectations. By the time of her premature death at the age of only 35, Alice had lived through 2 wars, had lost 2 of her children, and had exhausted herself in her devotion to duty to the extent that she suffered from disillusionment, almost to the point of despair. Nonetheless, in the final tragic weeks of her life, she met unimaginable grief with courage and serenity, and her last words demonstrated her ultimate redemption and the beautiful restoration of all she had lost.